Morning, everybody. It is 8:10 a.m. It is May 16th. Welcome to my channel. Now, yesterday I was not here. I actually was at my funeral, my grandma's funeral. She was 99 and 9 months, almost 100 years old, and she lived a blessed, full life. So it was more of a celebration day than a sadness day. She was a great woman, very, very easygoing, very happy. She didn't suffer that much, so that was more of a celebration day. So that's why I wasn't here yesterday. And now we're back to markets. Okay. Now yesterday, man, I would have had a trade yesterday. Boy, I would have had a nice long trade yesterday. So yesterday we had a 2-day bounce. You broke out that in SPY. All right. Now QQQ is a different story. Kind of stayed within balance. Okay, kind of stayed within balance. Now there's two different charts going on right now with those. They're not really connected as much right now. Okay, and yesterday, now the day before yesterday, when I was charting, ES had ultimate balance. If you've been watching me, that's when the most traded price of the month and the week line up together. And then what happens is a big move happens from those levels. That's why that move was a nice move yesterday, because you were coming out of ultimate balance, which would have made a nice long. All right. Also, I'll show you in the hourly charts where it pulled back to an anchored VWAP, and that would have been a nice long. Obviously, I wasn't here, but that's what I would have definitely would have went long there. And today is today's what we got going today. All right. We have it's OPEX, so it's monthly expirations for options. Okay, and today sometimes you tend to have some early volatility followed by like pinning next to large gamma strikes. Okay, so whenever a stock has large gamma level and it's by that now, what tends to happen towards the end of the day is it starts to pin towards those strikes. Okay, you might get like a stagnant. It doesn't always happen. It happens, it seems, most of the time. So you'll notice with Apple or whatever, the large gamma strikes will tend to gravitate toward those levels. All right, you get some early volatility, and then the market kind of dies because like a lot of money comes off the table, and then starts a new money starts to go. Money is already going to the next monthly expiration, but all this money will come off the table, and sometimes you get a change, some type of change next Monday. All right, because now this is done, it's expired. So, without further ado, welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets, along with supply and demand and gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. Also, my anchor VWAPs. And during the day, I use the market internals. Okay? Use the market internals. Now, yesterday, oh man, like I said, I would have been all over that long. All right? Just looking at the market internals yesterday. And just for a short little brief thing here, this basically all these sectors have weights in the markets, right? And these are in order of sector weight. Okay, and then the graph down here puts that basically puts these on a chart, and you can visualize how strong the market is, and it's based on these weights. Okay, and then this white line is if all of these were equal, which they're not, and but this just gives you an overall view of the market. So yesterday the overall market was stronger than the market cap weight. Okay, and you could see that here in some of these numbers, like energy was up 1.71, but tech was only 0.71, right? Financials was up 0.83, and staples was up 2%, right? So you can see that the overall market was strong, but the market cap, the big boys, weren't as strong. They're strong, don't get me wrong, but they just weren't. Usually you want to see the market cap weight over the equal weight, and that just propels it. But this still was going to move it. See, in the morning you were mixed, you're mixed, you're mixed, and then it started to trend upwards. Okay. So hopefully you guys can join me every day, every morning. I go over the markets, the market story, the leaders and the laggards. You go over economic calendar, we go over daily charts, we go over the ES and Nasdaq futures, and then I give you long and short trade scenarios. Okay, that's what I do every day. Hopefully you can come join me. Also, you can come join my Discord if you'd like. Confluence Trading. Come by and check it out. I just do commentary in the mornings, set up the markets, and basically give my insight. I'm about to go probably start doing some live sessions soon. As soon as people come in and show some interest, I just don't want to talk and no one's there. So if you do that, go to my YouTube homepage and join that. All right. So let's get right into the watch list here. See what's moving markets. All right. All right. They finally fixed the Bitcoin. All right. All right. So here we go. Ethereum's up 3.19. 30-year bonds are being bought today, which is sending yields lower. Russell's up 0.68, Bitcoin's up 0.55, Nasdaq's up 0.43, ES up 0.38, the Dow's up 0.37. Crude is basically flat. The dollar is flat. 10-year yield is down 1.17%. Gold is continuing to slide down 1.74. All right, this was a safe haven. All right, with all tariffs, blah blah blah. Now it's time for the dollar to probably push higher. We'll see. Silver's up, down 1.85, and the VIX is down 2.64. So you're coming to a 17.36 VIX. We're slowly starting to come back. Okay, just to give you some insight into the VIX, a 16 VIX is a 1% expected move in the S&P 500. Okay, a 16 VIX. So we've been up over a 16 for a little while now. So have to see. Let's look over the Mag 7 Plus here. And leading the pack here, AMD. AMD is up 2.62%. We're at 118. 118. Okay. Coinbase up 2.09%. Google's up 2%. Eli Lilly up 1.47. Tesla's up 1.29. Nvidia's up 1.21. GE up 0.49. Amazon up 0.49. Netflix up 0.48. Boeing up 0.37. Apple up 0.19. JP Morgan up 0.10. Berkshire Hathaway up 0.09. Broadcom up 0.05. Microsoft up 0.05. And Meta is the only laggard, down 0.21, which is not much. Okay, so Meta's the only laggard. I don't know why. Maybe there's something reason why here, but I mean, there's not too much. See, Wall Street poised to open higher. That's I'm not worried about that. All right, moving on. You go into the sectors. All right, so what's getting beaten down, and maybe money can start rotating into it, has been staples, has been healthcare. Okay, Eli Lilly has taken a little bit of a bloodbath with Trump saying he's going to make drugs cheaper. United Healthcare has been decimated from their CEO stepping down, and then a possible fraud, which they already said is not true. So it's kind of crazy. It sent the stock down in a tailspin. It was up at $600, $600. It's down to 283 right now. It's up today. All right, but that's been just bloodshed. So with that being said, all right, you have discretionary is second to that, 0.43. It's your Tesla, your Home Depot, and your Amazon. Communications, that's your Meta, your Google, your Netflix. All right, semis up 0.35. Technology up 0.27. All right, industrials up 0.25. Utilities up 0.22. Financials up 0.20. Staples up 0.06. Energy up 0.02, which is flat. Basic materials flat, and real estate flat. This market, we'll get into it in a second. All right, the ES and the Nasdaq are a little disconnected as far as structure. We'll get into that. Okay, and I wasn't watching the market yesterday, so obviously I'm assuming, because I'm looking at the internals, that the larger market cap stocks were not doing as great yesterday. Looking at the QQQ, as did the rest of the market. Okay, now we're going to get right into what? Into economic calendar here. Let's look at that together. Okay. And now today, we have basically Michigan consumer sentiment. Now that does move the markets. All right. This will move the market. So I will probably stay away till after 10 unless there's some setup that I'm in love with at like 940. I'll hold depending on where my entry location is. Then depending on where I'm at, I might just cut it or let it ride if I'm already up. We'll have to see. All right. Not really sure because that does move markets pretty violently lately. All right. Now, as far as the earnings, let's see if there's anything to note here. After the close yesterday was Applied Materials, Kava. It's the only ones I really care about. This morning, I don't really know any of those stocks. So obviously Alibaba, Walmart, and all that stuff. John Deere reported yesterday, and so we'll go back here and we'll go to some news here. Let's see some stocks that are moving. See Applied Materials stock fell 5.8 after the chip making equipment maker posted weaker than expected sales. It's at its largest segment. Now Vistra, right? That was one I was eyeing on buying in the dip. It's up big today. Okay, stock gained 5.2% after electricity firm announced a 1.9 billion deal to buy natural gas assets, which are likely part of its ambition to generate electricity for artificial intelligence data centers. That is one that I was going to buy. I did buy GEV, so that's been up big for me. But Take Two Interactive, Software stock fell 2.3 after the video game publisher dropped pre-market after its annual bookings guidance missed estimates. Apple stock rose 0.1 after key bank capital markets proprietary key first look data recorded a 34% increase in iPhone sell-through compared to the same month last year. Charter Communications stock rose 1.5 after the cable company agreed to merge with Cox Communications, valuing Cox at $34.5 billion. United Health stock rose 2.2, bouncing after dropping 10% in the prior session after the Wall Street Journal reported that the healthcare company was the subject of a criminal probe at the Justice Department just one day after the company withdrew its financial outlook and said Group CEO Andrew Woody was leaving. Coinbase Global stock rose 1.7 after Oppenheimer said the sell-off of the crypto exchange stock was overdone and the stock could bounce 20%. Okay, Microsoft stock fell 0.1 after the EU antitrust regulator said the software giant has offered to sell its Office product without Teams at a lower price than Office with Teams. Estee Lauder stock rose 4.3 after Michael Burry's Scion Asset Management bought shares in the cosmetics company. All right, let's look at some news here. More news. All right, I'm not going to repeat anything. So we have Apple blocks access to video game Fortnite in US, EU, Epic Games says. Okay. United Health investors wary and looking for medical strategic change. Just talked about that. Let's look at this here. It says Citi to cut up to 200 tech contractor roles in China. All right. All right. Now let's talk about the before the bell here. Wall Street futures rose, with index poised to end the week on a positive note, marked by U.S.-China tariff truce and soft inflation data. While investors focus on a likely vote on President Donald Trump's sweeping tax bill, the dollar edged lower in tandem with U.S. Treasury yields and stronger bets of policy easing. Meanwhile, European stocks look to cap a strong week with gains on upbeat earnings and easing trade tensions. In Asia, Japanese shares recouped early losses to end flat, while Chinese and Hong Kong stocks extended their losses following a disappointing earnings from Alibaba and looming U.S. tech restrictions. Among commodities, oil prices inched higher and were heading for a modest weekly gain. Gold continues decline on improving risk sentiment. All right, Kava, the company beat estimates for the first quarter revenue on Thursday, helped by robust demand for its Mediterranean cuisine despite a broader slowdown in dining out across the United States. All right, let's look at some other stuff here. All right, Meta, the Facebook parent company, asked the federal judge on Thursday to throw out a U.S. federal Jacobson case accusing it of illegal social media monopoly. All right, let's see here. Let's see here. Netflix. All right. Kind of Canaccord Genuity raises target price to 1380 from 1200. Take two. JP Morgan raises target price to 250 from 225. Walmart cuts target price to 111 from 114. Okay. And that's a good bit about the news here. Something's in the juice here. Let's see. U.S. futures gain with the S&P 500 on track for one of its best weeks this year as easing trade tensions between the U.S. and China buoyed appetite for risky assets and traders bet the Federal Reserve will step in to avoid a recession. Trump is not going to Turkey to join Russia and Ukraine talks. Let's see. I know Putin. It says Putin has reportedly no intention of accepting Ukraine's President Zelensky's offer to meet one-on-one in Istanbul. Okay. We'll just have to see. Okay. Remember today's OPEX. All right. I think we're done here. I think we can. Let's look at some breadth charts real quick while we're here. This is my lovely little indicator here. So we're at roughly 79% of S&P 500 stocks. They moved up again or above the 20-day moving average. Remember, you get into the 90s, that is a signal that the market is starting to get a little overdone. All right. Not easy to always do that, but when you zoom out here, that's pretty much a nice indicator that you can expect some type of pullback. Okay, because we got all the way down to like 1% of stocks were over a 20-day moving average. So just a good gauge. All right. Now, if we're looking at the investor sentiment here, okay, and looking at the bearish sentiment, look at that, it's really dropped. We're up to the 60s. Now we're down to 44% of investors are bearish. All right, let's go to the bulls. Obviously, this has changed. Okay, we were down here 19%. We're all the way up to 35% of investors are bullish on this estimate survey. Okay, real quick, let's look at the bullish percent index. And we'll do the S&P 500. So 74% of stocks are on buy signals. You can see this is kind of a toppy indicator here. Look how negative this was. That was probably a contrarian indicator there when only like 10% of stocks were on buy signals, right? And if we go to the NDX, the NASDAQ 100, 82% of stocks are on buy signals. That would be caution a little bit for longs, new longs, okay? Doesn't mean we can't go higher, it's just caution. All right, let's look at new highs, lows, and NYSE, it's a plus 44, so more new highs coming in, okay? Those are just some of the things I like to look at. It just gives you a nice view of breadth, okay, of breadth. All right, let's look at our daily charts here, okay? We'll look at the daily charts together. And again, I will do some ES NASDAQ futures, okay, as well, 1 hour charts. All right, so here's our SPY, right? And that SPY is on in this channel. I've been talking about the channel. We hit it here, right? Then we move sideways. Are we going to hit it again? This channel has been very key resistance, okay? Didn't really give a great pullback here. Really didn't. So it just knocked it, moved sideways. Okay, where are we at now? We are at 592.45, gapping up. We're already up $2. So 592. We're like right above yesterday's highs. So we're gapping up this morning on OPEX. Okay. Now, the resistance level I would look at is the 596, 590, 597 about. Okay, if you look over here, that is a previous monthly high. That will line up with this trend channel. So who knows? I don't know. I never claim to know. Okay. Now, here's your ES. It's been grinding higher. You can see here, right? That's last week's highs right here. opened up this week, boom, right? And then you just been trading higher. You actually yesterday broke the previous day's lows. That was probably like a nice little liquidity sweep there for people to buy that up, and that's what happened, and that propelled it to move higher. So that was like boom, let's break some longs, think we're going short, and then wham, higher. Okay, moving on to the Qs. That is obviously your daily charts here. Let's just go to Qs here and look at that trend channel, right? Still sitting at that trend channel, has really not been able to close much above that. Okay, if you look to the left in the Qs, you got this resistance here, clear resistance right there at around 519, 520. Okay, right here you can see it, 3 daily candles, actually a daily candle low followed by 3 daily candle highs, and then we dropped, boom, right? So this is a very key level here, 520, 519. You can see that's lining up with a trend channel resistance here, and we sold off, had a nice wick higher, and then closed here. Okay, now structurally you can see these monthly highs in the SPY we have not broken, but in the Qs we have. But just recent price action has shown the Qs to calm down a little bit as opposed to the SPY. Now remember, the Qs is only 100 stocks, and it's mainly tech. It doesn't have healthcare, staples pulling it, energy, really. It doesn't have any of that stuff pulling it. So that's why the SPY hasn't moved as high. But if the staples and the healthcare start to get pushed, that will start making the SPY move. Okay. Now, where are we at now? 521. So you're in the upper portion of yesterday's high. See, we're not even gapping up. So it's a little different because you have this resistance here. Let's look at futures. Let's look at futures. All right. In futures, that level is around 216.36. 216.36. And you can see from the big move up, we've been moving sideways. Okay. Moving sideways. This is starting to become a balance area. And as soon as you can balance area, it will be able to move and push up higher again. Okay. Push up higher again. And you can see, I probably can put it here. This trend channel right right here. And this is a daily one. You can see that, right? In futures, it's just honoring that. Just boom, 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 boom. Resistance, resistance. It's crazy, all right, how that works. All right, moving on. We're going to move on to that triple-headed monster is my bond market, the dollar and the VIX. Okay, that bond market is dipping today. Okay, so it broke out of this trend here. Right there, boom. Hit in last month's highs and now sold off. Broke the anchor VWAP of 2025 and now we're back under it. Right, so this could be a little trick move here, and maybe we start to move down. I don't know, right? Because generally, if the market thinks we're going to all-time highs, right, this is our last shot to get some nice yield here before we go lower. And we'll just have to see. Okay, we'll have to see. Then the dollar here is in this little wedge here. You can see. You see we had resistance here, and now we're kind of like price is compressing. If you keep compressing, you're going to get a big move. Okay, you broke out of this big consolidation, boom, resistance, and now you're starting to consolidate, and this is going to queue up. This is definitely going to queue up for something bigger. Okay, just have to see. And we move on to the VIX. That's your 30 years. 30 years. 30 years. 30 days. Can't speak here. 30 days out. Okay, 30 days out. Okay, you can see this has just been moving lower and lower and lower and lower. Okay, okay, under the 200-day moving average. It's just been moving lower. Right, makes sense. Makes sense. Right. This is crazy when we're all the way up to 60 VIX. That's kind of nuts. Okay. All right. Moving on to the hourly charts. That's right. I like showing my futures hourly charts. Okay. Go over some big levels here. So let me get them set up for you so I can show you some levels here. All right. And I just hope this helps everybody. I know it helps me. This really drives my thinking when you step out away. Look at this hourly chart. Look at the trend channel and all that stuff. Okay. So here's our ES, right? And what I wanted to show you guys. Why is that not coming up here? All right, give me a second here. Let me kill this. It's annoying. It's got to reset it for some reason. It was like not working the way I wanted to. Okay. So here's your ES, right? Now this is what I was talking about yesterday. What I had along. This anchored VWAP from the Sunday night open. See how that's been supportive? Supportive. Now look where it came down to yesterday. Right there. I'm not even sure what time that was actually. Let me look what time that was. Maybe that wasn't during the market open. No, it was actually pre-market. So pre-market, that's where it went down to. So look at that. Support, right? Then it drove up. Okay. And right here is ultimate balance. This level, 59.08, I believe it is the most traded price of the month and in the week. You can see by the spike here in the profile. Okay. And whenever you're in this most traded price of the month and the week, whenever you move away from it, it becomes a big move. Okay, so that's why you got this big move up in this hourly candle, consolidated, and now we're making another move. Okay, you can see this trend channel held true. It hit it. The market moved sideways, dropped, and now moving back up, right? So anchor VWAPs, you're above all of them. This was the year to date. This was the anchored VWAP from the all-time highs. Buyers are in control. Okay. Now the one level I would look at, okay, and you guys want to know a little more about market profile and volume profile. This chasm here shows a resistance and a support level. All right. So I can just look at this and go, I know that this is an important level. Okay. That level is 59.76. Okay. Now if we zoom out to 59.76, let's see what that shows us. Okay, so if you look across here, it's going to be a pivot level. Okay, so look, support, 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 all that support. That's a pivot level. Okay, 59.76. That could be the stop place where we get a little resistance here. Okay, and if I go back, let's just make it at like a 2-hour chart. Okay, 2-hour chart. All right, and just show you, right? If you look at the levels, that's a low volume node. That will be support and resistance. If you look to the left in my cursor, support, 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 right? So 59.76, write it down. That is an important level. Okay. Basically, out of this big consolidation, that was where we dropped. Boom. Okay. So that's your hourly charts. And this trend channel, look at that thing, man. That thing is just honoring that. Whew. Crazy. All right, I'm going to keep that on my charts. All right. Keep that on my charts. All right. Let's move on. Hopefully that sheds some light on everybody. All right, I'm going to move on to the market profile, volume profile, my bread and butter here. Let me move over my workspace. Okay. Let's do it. And we'll talk about, obviously, a little more minutia, granularity more, right? All right, let's look at it. I'm going to set this up for you guys. And we go over the market profile and volume profile analysis, okay? Okay, so let's do it. Let's look at our profile, and then we'll just recap yesterday. But I just want to show you, let's see here. That's from the Sunday open here. That's the gap up. You can see I have that blue gap, right? And this market has not been up here in the last 30 days. So that's why the monthly profile in the orange and the weekly are exactly the same, because this is uncharted territory for the last 30 days. We have not been up here, so they're equal, all right? And then we have the profile here, all right? Now that's ultimate balance is your 5908 right here. That is your ultimate balance level. And you want the market to stay above that to be bullish, okay? Any time spent underneath it would be a little feather in the cap for the bears, and you might get a little pullback. Okay, that's how you look at that. It's like a war, and the bulls are winning above it, the bulls are losing, and the bears are winning on below it. All right. Now, as far as a recap from yesterday, let's just look at yesterday. You had a nice little range yesterday, man. I missed that. So let's look at the price action of yesterday. So it looks like you opened up. Now I'm going to show you how important these most traded prices are, VBOX. So here's the open, right? Look at the most traded price of the overnight. See that right there? That's why they're so key to always know where the most trades consensus prices are, because they're magnets and they're hard to go through. Okay? So look at that. You held it, you held it. And then you pushed up. Where? Through ultimate balance, right? Boom. Big move. Then you pulled back. Then you went up here and you closed right here. Now, ultimate balance level, you always get a nice big move. Okay. And you also had this 59.27. I would call that a confluence high. I would have been like, oh, that's the level. That's the level to break. And you broke it. Okay. So let's collapse this, because it's all market profile is 30-minute bars. Okay. And market profile is time based. Volume profile is price based, or volume at price. Okay. Now, currently, what are we doing? Currently, right? Now look at the most traded price. That's where we're at, right? 59.49 most traded price of the overnight. We are gapping up. Okay, so gap fill is 59.44. Right there. There's your gap fill. Okay. Now we have a nice big demand zone here. Right here. Okay. And we have a confluence low. This is your most traded price of yesterday. It's around 59.30. Okay. Lines up with the overnight lows and demand. So this is confluence here. That's a nice level. Then you have single prints here from that move, right? That's emotional buying. See that little thin volume here? Right here. That's another level to put on your charts here. 59.08. All right, 59.08. And you have a demand down here at yesterday's lows. Okay, right here. Remember I said if we go under that, it's a little feather in the cap for the bears. Doesn't mean we're all going to sell off. It's just a feather in the cap. Okay. 50% retracement happens to be 59.14 from yesterday's move as well. Right. Now, I usually go over inventory, right? Opened here. You got equal long, equal short in this profile. So that doesn't give me an edge. Okay. Doesn't give me an edge. Now, the job of the market now, you can see value is here at 59.08, right? Now, the job of the market is to give you very thin volume up here. It needs to create value up here and move value to follow price. If value cannot follow price, price returns back to value. Okay, so that's just how that works. So it always lets me know who's in control, right? It's very easy. Oh, we're above the most traded price in ultimate balance of the month and the week. All right, above the most traded price of yesterday. I know who's in control, right? Now, let's get into some scenarios here. Now remember, let's see, the 5976 is probably right here. That's that low volume node here, which could possibly be our resistance today. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's get into your long and short trade scenarios for the ES here. Okay, gapping up, right? So you can see the most traded price here, 59.50 around. Okay, so if if I want to be bullish and I think we're going to go higher, okay, what I would like to see is you could get one of these, hit the overnight low highs, come back down, right? Gap fill is real close to this 59.50. So if you can just do this, whoop, hold it, we might dribble up to that 59.76 and just balance off being OPEX. Okay. What else can happen? We get a little bit of a deeper pullback into demand, And then I would think a little bear trap would be if we push down into the overnight lows and the most traded price of yesterday. This would be, in my opinion, a bear trap because people will be like, oh my God, and we go whoop, recover, higher low, and we can dribble up higher. Okay. My last time, if the market wasn't that weak and we kind of just went like whoop, 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 really quickly into this level, right? This would be ultimate balance, and you need to defend this, right? So if we come down here and we start to lift off, we get long. Now, I have to be honest with you. If we did come down here, we could do one of these and then just balance here for OPEX. So I'd want more or less these scenarios playing out than this one, because you have a propensity to possibly balance into OPEX. This is probably a large gamma level. Okay, so that is my long scenarios. Let's go to shorts. Okay, which haven't had much success as of late. Okay, so we're gapping up. All right, now the things that I would like here, if I want to even possibly even think a short, would be let's push up. Right, I'd like a nice push up to that 59.76 because I know that's an important level, right? And if we go boop, put in some lower highs, then we can possibly pull back. Okay, your first look would be the gap fill. And then let's see if you can go back to that most traded price yesterday around 59.27. That's your breakout level. And maybe we come down to your ultimate balance, 59.08. You crush through that, yeah, that's pretty bad. And like I said, I don't think I see that happening, but I don't know. You got to keep it in the cards, okay? But that's pretty much all I would probably be looking at. And if the market just all of a sudden, okay, this is finally when longs are going to start taking profits, I'd have to see the internals be in parity here, which means like nobody's strong, nobody's weak for me to think about this, okay? So that's my scenarios for the ES. Now, if we're looking at the NASDAQ, let's look at the NASDAQ together. NASDAQ is not in ultimate balance yet. Okay. And it's in supply. Okay. It has not been able to get out of the supply. That's that resistance I was talking about in the charts earlier. Okay. So, like I said, it's a different story with the NASDAQ. It's structurally different right now. All right. We're not gapping up. We're inside yesterday's session, right? Gapping up in the ES. We're gapping up in the ES. Okay. So you can see this big single print void here. So that's single prints. Those are susceptible to getting broken. All right, getting eaten up. But the market has been bullish. Okay. You barely even touch them at all. Okay. So this is all bullish. All right. Your most traded price of the week is 213.25, which is right here. Look at where price came to and down into the overnight, right down to the most traded price of the week. Okay, so that's number one. All right, we got a 12-hour demand here. We got more demand here. Most traded price, it's just, I keep saying this, they're magnets. So 214.53, that's where price is now. That's the most traded price in the overnight. Now there's no edge here. Overnight's been pretty balanced. Okay, been pretty balanced. Now, remember, we're inside yesterday's session. I don't love that when you're inside yesterday's session, and the midpoint of yesterday was about 213.89. I don't want to be in the midpoint because you're just gonna get chopped up, right? It just tends to look like, ooh, we're going higher. Oh no, we're going lower. Oh, and it just like you're gonna get faked out, right? I need major levels to be tested for me to be interested, because otherwise I'm just gambling. If trade goes into this area here, like in this area, unless there's some extreme thing that happens, right? It's just going to be like, oh man, I need something, liquidity sweep or something to get me interested. Okay? So we have our levels here. Okay? And our levels, you got your 213.25 is the most traded price, okay, of the week, right? Lines up with the most traded price of yesterday and the overnight low. So this confluence low, 213.47, becomes very important. It also lines up with this demand. Okay, so this is all areas to get pullbacks into. All right, you got this demand zone that goes all the way here. That would be probably some type of bear trap if we came down in here. Okay, below that is no good, no bueno. All right, you down here, that is not good. Okay, now if the market's weak, that's really not good. But if the market's that could be just a bear trap. All right, now up here you have yesterday's highs. Okay, 215, I believe 29. All right, this little area, we'll just say 215, is the overnight lows in yesterday's highs. Okay, this happens to be in a big supply zone, hence the resistance. All right. Now, with that, all that being said, why don't we get right into scenarios here? Okay. Okay. All that being said, we're gonna get right into scenarios. All right. Let's put that up here. Give me a sec. Let's move this to the left a little bit. All right. Let's talk about it. Like I said, I'm not in love where we're at right now. Okay. So in order to be in love with it, what I'm gonna need is some type of games being played when we open, right? So I would like a nice push up to break the overnight highs, that 215. Okay. Then maybe get a little boom, a little sell, come through the most traded price of the overnight, right, into this demand zone. And what I would really like is it to really kind of slam down into this demand, hit the most traded price of the week, bounce up, and now we got the liquidity from the shorts here to go higher. And maybe we go and test the 216. Okay? Because I don't like being in supply and just going long. Usually it doesn't end well, and you usually wind up getting faked out. Okay? So that's why I would like this move. Okay? Now the other move, it's only if the market's not super weak, is if we did come down, and I believe this would be some type of bear trap. If we came down there pretty quickly, even if we swept right here, whoop, and held and started to push up, that could be a nice move up. Now it gets tricky here because we could also get caught at this most traded price of the week in balance because it's OPEX. Okay, this has to be quick in order for me to be like, okay, but if we meander here around here, yeah, you're gonna get chopped up in here. So I'd like to stay above it, to be honest with you. All right, now let's go to the bear side. Bear side here. All right. So we have supply here. We have overhead supply that's been resistant, right? So just kind of the inverse of what I just said, right? If you push up and you're like, ooh, we're moving up, but we're still in supply, break yesterday's highs, then you get a little weakness, lower highs. You could start moving lower, right? Go through the most traded price of the overnight, which is about 214.50. And this is where you can get a nice short in here, right? And come all the way down to where? 213.25. That could be a nice short. And you hold on to see if possibly break this level. And then you have these single prints in here. which is very thin volume. But you need a very weak market to just go wham and rip them down. Couldn't happen. It can happen if the market just turns weak all of a sudden. It is OPEX. It could be volatile, but then, like I said, it could also be volatile at first and then pin. And where is the level that I would guess we could pin at? 213.25 today. So I don't know. That's just the scenarios. I don't really have a crystal ball, but that's our plans. Okay, we got our plans. Hopefully everybody enjoyed those analysis. Okay, and then hopefully, of course, if you always have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Smash the like button if you enjoyed that. That would be much appreciated. Now, every morning I do this. Please come join me and, get involved with the chat. Ask me some questions. I don't have any problems answering it. I give you the lowdown on the markets, right? Leaders and the laggards, the market news. Hopefully, you get something out of it, right? I just gave you trade scenarios, you know. Hopefully, you enjoyed that as well. And if you want, come join my Discord. All right, come join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading, and you can go to my YouTube homepage, select the link, come in there, interact with me. I will be updating what I'm seeing today, and if not, I'll see everybody tomorrow. So everybody have a great weekend, and see you in the Discord or see you Monday.